Yo, what's going on YouTube? This your boy Kamen Zero Spike back again once again. And today, people, today we're here for Kamen Rider Geats episode 31, which is basically a tycoon based tycoon centric episode, but also a Geats tycoon, Geats more centric episode where we get the explanation of how the goddess of creation works five, three, four, five times, but just from different people. We find out how Geats was actually born. His birth is actually is an anomaly because Niram's words that he's basically an anomaly. And yeah, so this game basically starts off with Tycoon talking with his sister. She's asking like what happened to Neon and things like that, and he's just maybe she's just chilling right now. Maybe she's just trying to look for a new home or something like that right now, and then maybe she'll come back to making stuff whenever. So out of nowhere they hear like this bump. He hears like this something feels like it crashed or bumped or something like that. We see that Tycoon and Sarah basically go to investigate it, and we see that the entire city starts to float. The entire city begins to float, and this giant Yamato evil goddess looking thing, looks like a Final Fantasy boss. I'm really not gonna lie. Starts to float in the middle of the sky, and these yellow circles, not yellow, but all these different color circles, all start appearing on the ground, and all these different size yellow, all these different, I keep saying they're yellow, they're not yellow circles. Some of them are yellow, some of them are other colors, god damn it. But some of these all these different circles and things like that appear on the ground, and we get these angelic looking Yamato grunts, and turns out they really just all start like attacking people. So when they start attacking people, we see that if you're sitting there on one of the circles, basically the Yamato will not attack you. So the goddess, this fake goddess, the Final Fantasy boss, Final Fantasy final boss, she begins to speak, and she says whatever color that they basically landed on, if it's not the color that she described, you will fall through the ground. So they end up basically some people fall through the ground, and they end up turning into bubbles. When they turn into bubbles, they end up getting absorbed into the goddess. They basically get absorbed into the Final Fantasy final boss, and this whole game is supposed to be like a representation of what the DGP actually does when they're actually fulfilling someone else's wish. They basically say that, hey, if when a game basically has started, and all the people that have died during the game, like it's all the civilians during the game that have actually died, who don't get brought back when the world is remade anew, they all get their happiness. It gets all stored up inside of the goddess of creation, which means that the more and more that they store up, then they're able to give the last person standing a wish of true friggin' happiness. And that's basically what the DGP actually does. We see that Tycoon did talk to Kikeda about what's going on and about what the DGP actually does, and he explains that, hey, for someone to be rich, someone has to be poor. For someone to be happy, someone also has to be sad. So he basically says that if there's not like a balance between these two things, then something could boil over. So we also got to see Geats' revelations when he finds out that the goddess of creation is his mother itself, and the only way he was able to actually be born was the fact that she was in the past. She's a future person. She's in the past, and she met someone. Well, she's a future person, and she met someone from the past. She met a person from the past, and they fell in love with each other. But future people and past people cannot make children together, because future people are kind of made completely differently than actual like present people. So they couldn't do that. So Mitsume, his mother, essentially it was able to use a bunch of people's happiness to create Geats, to create it, to make it possible for him to be born. So Geats is actually like her heaven sent child, hence the theme of this game that we have going on. Tycoon actually also sees this, and he knows, and he sees that even his parents were a result of this, since they were killed by Jamato, and even though they stopped those Jamato, his parents were never brought back. So his parents were just used as fuel for the goddess of creation. We see that Tycoon does have, or Kawa does have, seems like he has some beef going on with Geats, but I don't think. But I'll get to my thoughts in a second. But we also saw that we did get to see Geats fighting Buffa as freaking usual. We see that Buffa tried to throw Geats into the circle, or into like the ground where it broke and stuff like that. And we see that Geats is like, no man, I have gravity powers. What are you talking about? So he does end up fighting Buffa and things like that. He does kind of end up beating Buffa. Because right now Buffa's not beating, right now with this new form that Geats has, Buffa's not beating him whatsoever. So we did see how Kawa is protecting all the people throughout this game. He's protecting his sister, he's protecting this little boy and this other schoolgirl who he starts to see she is also starting to be corrupted by this game, essentially trying to make sure she survives. But she does end up pushing this random dude inside of a hole. It does end up pushing this random dude in the hole. She was like, I am going to be the last one standing, which was actually kind of scary, how, if you really think about it. But also, we did see how Tycoon is using Jet Command the majority of the episode, but then you end up but you went back to use Ninja again, and I'm just like, why? Because Jet Command is like the best form to use. Any flying form is like the best form to use in this case, because they grab the city, man. The city is floating. This is really a Final Fantasy freaking boss type thing going on. But yeah, so he goes back to using Ninja. He's fighting the player Jamatos, and also we see that the big fish, he does end up fighting the big fish Jamato and the other spore shooting Jamato. But we see that the big fish Jamato is back. We see that Archimedo ended up using his own blood to give to the fish Jamato. But yeah, in the last episode, I really thought that Archimedo was gonna cut off a limb or something like that, or cut off a finger or something like that to give to this. He's like fertilize. He's like giving. Essentially, he's calling himself fertilizer or stuff like that. So he does end up using. He does end up saying, "Hey, you can go ahead and eat me," and the fish Jamato ends up eating Archimedo. He ends up eating Archimedo and then transforming into Archimedo. Basically, the same thing that Plant Toro did, where he was the Jamato. He just transforms into Buffa's homeboy, essentially. So Archimedo's here, but also not here, and then the fish Jamato is still here, but. Yeah, and it's kind of gruesome because you see him eating them, and Sparrow. Well, Daichi is the one that sees all this. He sees like him getting eaten and things like that, was a sight. He was horrified at first, but then he starts to smiling where Daichi's all kind of weird and whatever. But yeah, so we end up seeing that Daichi ends up well, not Daichi, but Buffa ends up fighting Kawa. He ends up defeating Kawa. We see that Kawa is just like, he's a background character in this episode, but also just the main focus of this episode. I mean, when it comes down to the stuff that's going on with Geats, he's like in the background, he's hearing and listening to all this. But when it comes down to the actual game and actually saving people and stuff like that, he's like the only one that's actually doing any real fighting. Neon's not in this episode at all, and then Geats really only has one fight, and the only person he fights is Buffa. So, but he's also trying to get information and things like that from Niram and trying to figure out stuff. So But yeah, man, Kayla got done dirty. Kayla's like my favorite character in this freaking series, and yeah, Kayla's got done dirty in this episode because he's basically the hero, and I don't know, man. I just didn't like how they did KY in this episode either, and I also didn't like how they just, yeah, we know how the Godsend creation works. I mean, yeah, they gave more of an in-depth explanation of this, but did you really have to do it like 4 times? I mean, yeah, but I still understand. But I understand. Yes, this is a kid show, but you did it 4 times from like 3 different people, and those 3 different people, well, 4 different people, explained it in a different way to a degree. So it's just like, okay, cool, we get it. but but yeah, man, this episode it was okay. I still don't like how they did KY in this episode, but next episode we're gonna I hope we're gonna see the conclusion of this hopefully, and Geats is also gonna try and fight near him, but Geats is also very like just thrown back by everything that's going on, well, all the information that he's gotten in this episode, and he really, it seems like he's like kind of lost somewhat of the will to fight when it comes down to it. And we said Kay was the one doing all the fighting, even though he made a really dumb decision. He should have just kept using jet command. He could have flew back up there. But you went, I mean, Ninja's great. Ninja's dope, but Ninja cannot fly. That's the thing. But also, you guys let me know down in the comment section below what you guys think about this episode of Kamen Rider Geats. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. As always, I forgot my freaking slogan. And remember, as I always say, stay henshined.